The biased way depressed people think about the past. The bias may make it harder for depressed and anxious people to take a risk on a new relationship, job, or other career opportunity. People with symptoms of depression and anxiety tend to focus more on the mistakes they have made in the past, research finds. This makes it harder for them to take advantage of potentially beneficial opportunities in the future. One of the main things about depression is ruminating on past bad experiences. Just focused on it. Focused on maybe personal failures. Focused on what someone has done to you. Feelings of shame, overwhelming feelings of guilt. This is probably one of the reasons why addiction always leads to depression. Part of it can be that we're always thinking back of how we failed over and over and over and over again. Depression is also very much linked to a physical condition of the brain, brought on mostly by diet. Some of it could be genetic, very little. Of course, we know from epigenetics that it's not so much how your genes are expressing what they express, but how it's expressed in conjunction with our environment and experiences. So depression can be cured. It's not just in your mind. It's not just psychological. It's physical. And I'll tell you right now that many, many, many people, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people have cured their depression with the carnivore diet. And this is the most anti-inflammatory diet that you can follow, despite the lies we've been taught over the last 70 plus years. It's a condition of inflammation. And psychiatrists will tell you that. At least psychiatrists who study this field understand and will tell you that. So it's part of it is thinking back on bad events, but this is what's pushed more so than anything. There's very little talk of how your diet controls or creates and maintains and keeps depression going. They want you to think it's psychological so that they can give you medication, which never cures it. It only makes you worse. It makes you a shell of a human being, to be honest. Worse, other studies have shown that people who are depressed tend to believe that bad things that happen to them were inevitable. Yeah. Bad luck. This always happens to me. Same day, another, same story. Whatever response you get from people, you say, hey, how's it going? Same stuff, another day. This isn't full-on clinical depression, but it's a part of depression. There are many types of depression, varying levels and degrees of depression. But a lot of times they feel this kind of, this is just the way it goes. I had this as a teenager. I lived every day with like a dark cloud over my head, feeling whereas feeling confident or optimistic about something was nearly impossible because I felt it's just going to fail. It's too good to be true. Even with my own wins, I'd finally do something well in school and just say, it must have been a really easy test. No big deal. So not only do you feel that bad things are inevitable, but you also discount your small wins. The bias may make it harder for depressed and anxious people to take a risk on a new relationship, job, or other career opportunity. One suggestion for escaping the cycle is to consciously focus more on past successes. Or even better, focus on the now. Focus on the moment you're in. If you think about the difference between something that's actually a thing or something is a situation. So most of the things that we worry about in the past or to, focus on in the past that brings us down, makes us feel depressed or makes us depressed isn't actually a situation. So if you right now, just be in the moment right now, you really don't have any problems. And if you did, you wouldn't be able to watch this video. A lot of what we worry about is not a thing. It's just a situation. So if you can't pay rent, that's a situation. You're not going to just ignore that, obviously, and just be evicted. But thinking about it doesn't make it go away. Worrying about it doesn't make it go away. We have to focus on a solution but most importantly, be in the moment. This is how we take control. Thinking of past successes may be okay in the short term, but eventually it could then lead to you thinking of losses and get you right back into that same pattern of thinking of the past too much. Unfortunately, depressed people also have a difficulty appreciating or recalling positive experiences. Cognitive behavioral therapy is one way of changing habits of thought that might affect decision making. In contrast to the depressed and anxious, people who are emotionally resilient find it easier to adapt to a rapidly changing environment and to take advantage of opportunities. Professor Sonia Bishop, study co-author, explained, when everything keeps changing rapidly and you get a bad outcome from a decision you make, you might fixate on what you did wrong, which is often the case with clinically anxious or depressed people. Yeah, they fixate on it. They spend 80% of the time focused on the problem, 20% of the time focused on the solution, when it should be the other way around. You identify the problem. Okay, that's what it is. Now let's spend 80% of our time and the rest of our time fixing it. But a depressed person can't move past the identification of the problem. They just get stuck on it. And a lot of this is physical. There's a physical brain chemical problem. Conversely, emotionally resilient people tend to focus on what gave them a good outcome. And in many real-world situations, they might be key to learning to make good decisions. The researchers tested the decision-making of over 300 people for their study, some with depression and others with anxiety. Professor Bishop said, we wanted to see if this weakness was unique to people with anxiety or if it also presented in people with depression, which often goes hand in hand with anxiety. Yeah, I went through anxiety and it was presented with depression because I was depressed about my anxiety. The panic attacks caused depression because I felt stuck and I felt hopeless. Thought I would be like that for the rest of my life. We also sought to find out if the problem was a general one or specific to learning about potential reward or potential threat. The results showed that people with symptoms of depression and anxiety had the most trouble making sound decisions. Professor Bishop said, we found that people who are emotionally resilient are good at latching on to the best course of action when the world is changing fast. People with anxiety and depression, on the other hand, are less able to adapt to these changes. Our results suggest that they might benefit from cognitive therapies that redirect their attention to positive rather than negative outcomes. Just do a carnivore diet. Don't even take my word for it. Just try it. So many millions of people who were skeptical eventually tried the carnivore diet because it's just so popular, and it's changed their lives for the better. So if you suffer from depression or anxiety, please try carnivore for 90 days. Most likely you'll feel a positive change within the first week. So you may have some withdrawal from sugar, aka carbohydrates, but you'll get through it after a few days. Please try carnivore in conjunction with some therapy. Like if you have some trauma or some actual issues that you need to resolve, then get therapy. How that helps with the psychological aspect of depression. But the actual depression is physical. It's from inflammation in the brain. Inshallah, this was beneficial. Subscribe, like all the things, share with someone, share in the comments if you struggle through depression or know someone who's struggling through depression, if you've gotten through your depression, and share so that we can all benefit, inshallah. So till next time, may Allah reward you for being curious and keep tying your camel. Assalamu alaikum.